Hi guys, welcome to the final week on gratitude, the month of gratitude. So we've talked about a lot this month. We opened up with scarcity and abundance. We talked about why it's hard to have gratitude. Last week we talked about gratitude for the easy stuff, the hard stuff, how to rewire your brain for gratitude. And the final week I asked for your questions, and I have some really good questions that I'm excited to answer. So the first question is how to not feel like gratitude is forced or like you're being fake. Such a good question. So the first thing that I would recommend is you ask yourself, what is feeling fake for me? Like, am I in resistance right now? And I mean resisting what is happening in my life. Am I telling myself something shouldn't be like this or someone shouldn't be like this? So acknowledging that maybe I'm in resistance and fighting what currently my reality is and what people are doing and what the situation is, it's going to be really hard to get to gratitude when you're in resistance. And then the other thing to consider is, or am I just actually not grateful for this? Like, I'm not grateful for quarantine. I'm not grateful for someone being sick. I'm not grateful my vehicle broke down, because you're allowed to feel that. And remember, we are raised to not be upset. But when sad things happen, the best way we can deal with it is to be sad and remember that there is a difference between that clean pain and that dirty pain. That clean pain of letting ourselves feel that negative emotion and working through it versus the dirty pain of keeping spinning there and keeping suffering. But I'd really encourage you, don't take gratitude off the table altogether. Sorry, guys, I just got to load up this page because I might be missing comments. If you are joining in, I can't see who's here, who's watching, but feel free to put something in the comments and I will try and answer them as I go. So I encourage you also to not take gratitude off the table altogether. So if your life is like a pie and there's 8 pieces of pie in it, and one piece of the pie is just rotten, you don't want to be grateful for that piece. Start to practice gratitude in the areas that feel like an easy start. So don't just take it right off the table. The next question is, can you be grateful for what you have but still feel sad from circumstances? Oh my goodness, absolutely. Absolutely, you can feel sad and be grateful. It's not an either or thing. And this is actually called feeling your feelings, being bummed out, and knowing that you don't have to perpetuate your suffering. You don't have to stay in that place. So I'll share something that I don't often share, and it's something that's very sad to me. It breaks my heart, and that is the circumstance that my mom has early onset dementia. It started probably about 15 to 10 years ago. I would change it in a second. I would change it in a heartbeat, but I am still finding gratitude in this circumstance that we're in. I'm finding gratitude for everything she's done in my life and in my family. I'm grateful to see how my family cares about taking care of her and my dad. I'm grateful that she has friends at her church that she poured into all of her adult life that show up and check in on her and take care of her. I'm grateful that our family has been really open and having dialogue about what's happening together and our experience of it. And it reminds me of another story I just read about a family who learned their son was really sick. They were in the hospital going through whatever procedures he needed, and they were just exhausted, and they were offered a place in the Ronald McDonald House right beside the hospital. So they get to their room, they're exhausted, they just want to sleep. And there was a basket in that room of essentials and snacks. Like, that is a sad situation, but there was still something that they could be grateful for. So you can be sad and grateful. It's not an either or. And it does take acknowledging what is sad and allowing space for that. And still knowing, like, if I'm grateful, it doesn't mean I approve of this, right? We've talked about acceptance is not approval. I can accept this and that it's sad, and my gratitude doesn't negate it. It doesn't make it non-existent anymore. It's not like a blanket I'm putting over it to cover it up, if you know what I mean. This next question, very insightful. How not to fall in the should of gratitude and just talking negatively to yourself about, I should make gratitude more of a practice, I should do it this way and do it that way. So this is very insightful because you are doing a good job knowing yourself enough to see that this can become one of those things to beat yourself up over. We've got this to-do list, right? And we add on the to-do list. And this to-do list is like a list of the person I should be. And if I'm not, then I suck at life. And that to-do list sometimes is just not empowering to people. So I think I have something that might help you. Rather than making this something on your to-do list, is to make it a tool you can use. And when I was at home with all 3 kids, I would write every week 3 focuses for myself for the week. One would be a work focus, one would be a personal focus, and one would be a parenting focus. So let's say one week I wrote down parenting, my focus is reading. I'm not giving myself like I have to read this many books this many times a day. I'm just making it something I want to do this week. I want to be reading this week. So if mindfulness is a focus you have for yourself, it's a value you have for yourself, then gratitude is just another way to get it done. Gratitude, journaling, meditation, they're all tools in your toolbox rather than a to-do that you have to check every day. I hope that's helpful for you. Let me know what you think. The next question, how to feel grateful when you feel overwhelmed. And to me, the first step is to deal with the overwhelm. And if you go back to episode 41 on the Simple on Purpose podcast, I've got help on that, help on how to deal with the overwhelm. Because when you are in a state of overwhelm, it's your brain's way of saying too much overload. This will put you in a stress state. And as we covered before, when you are in a stress state, you cannot show up well. You're using a different part of your brain. So this is kind of with the first question too. If you're feeling stressed somehow, putting gratitude in that moment, it just feels like scrappy and desperate. But if you can acknowledge the stress, the overwhelm, the sadness, then you can come to gratitude from a different place. You can come using that really calm, logical part of your brain, the prefrontal cortex. It allows you to do some deep thinking and be still and open. So address the overwhelm first. The last question, and then we'll talk about ways to practice gratitude, is okay, let's say you've just received your 24th call from your mom. It's halfway through the morning and you feel guilty because someone says, at least you still have your mom. Okay, first of all, you are allowed to not answer the phone. You can love your mom fiercely and also tell her, I love you. Please don't call me any more than 5 times a day. So choose your 5 times wisely, space them out. You've got all day to call me at 5 times in the day. You are allowed to do that. But you're talking about this feeling like something is hard and someone says something and it makes us feel invalidated. This is called comparative suffering. That sense that your suffering isn't actually suffering because someone has it worse. And it's sayings like, it could be worse, or at least blah, 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 at least you have food in your fridge, or you don't have it that bad. There's kids in Africa starving, like how many of us grew up hearing that. So we can have other people telling us this, or we can be saying it to ourselves. When I had my first baby, it was an emergency C-section. I felt like it was traumatic for me. It was a traumatic experience. But I was telling myself, I shouldn't feel this way because at least I have a healthy baby. Like, at least he's here. At least he's happy. I was not acknowledging that, is pain not pain, period? Because is pain not valid? Just because of what the global situation might be around pain? Who has like the cornerstone on pain? Who gets the most like ownership of what is painful? The other week, my son took the day off. I made him take a day off. He spent the day with me. He's 6 years old. He was just a mess all week long. He kept crying. He would snap really easy. And I was like, something's happening for him. So I had him home with me. And at the end of the day, after he had had like a really nice, relaxing day, he started doing things that he enjoyed. He was more calm, more easy to talk to. And I asked him, like, what was hard? What big thing felt really hard that you didn't have to do today? And he said, I didn't think about my loose tooth all day long. He had this tooth that has been loose for weeks. Actually, it fell out last night. Thank goodness. But this loose tooth was causing him so much conflict. He wanted it out. His brother and sisters had theirs out. His friend had his out. It just caused him so much like anxiety. And who am I to say that's not real? Like, how will I teach him to feel about his pain and his upset. We have this scale of how much empathy we're allowed to give others. So, of course, we're going to use that scale on ourselves, right? At least it could be worse is a way of resisting a negative emotion that is present in your life. And if someone's saying it to you, it's how they're avoiding feeling the discomfort of your negative emotion. So other people saying it to you is more about their comfort level, but when you say it to yourself, you're really pulling yourself from acknowledging and working through your own pain. And guess what happens with pain? Resisting it, avoiding it, is like pushing a beach ball underwater. That's a common analogy in therapy. And holding that beach ball underwater, it's going to take work. And guess what? Pops back up, pops back up. Sometimes the idea of like, it could be worse is helpful. Sometimes that can work. Like I like to use it, and I shared an example of like, if it has to be this bad, at least this is happening. Like if I have to be in this situation, at least this is good. Like the silver lining. But if it's not making you feel better, if it doesn't bring you peace, then this is not the right technique in that moment. In that moment, compassion. Compassion for the person who feels like they need to say that. Like they are actually thinking they could help you. Compassion for that. They want to help me right now. And compassion for yourself that this thing is hard and I honor that. So I want to talk about a few ways to practice gratitude. And this is kind of a fun thing that I thought of recently is gratitude in the past, present, and future. For the past, gratitude for the past. If you look at a video of your baby laughing at 1 year old, like you're going to have gratitude, even if that was a really hard season. That's something that me and my kids do together. We gather around the iPad like it's a photo album and we look at old photos and videos, have so much gratitude for that. And I think it was last week that I shared, I've started writing down positive memories. And I have this journal in the kitchen. I started in January. I've written in it almost every month. Just a nice memory, something that was like fun or interesting or heartwarming. And I look back and I read that. In the present, coming back to the present. If you want gratitude right now, getting gratitude, being mindful, right now, nothing is wrong. Look around you. What do you hear? What do you feel? What do you see? What do you smell? Just coming into this present moment. A few years back, I started something called the Perfect Moments Project. And it would happen where I would just be like in the house and the kids were quiet for a minute and maybe the dishwasher was humming or something. And I just looked at them and I thought, this is a perfect moment right now. And I started to look for the perfect moments in the everyday life where everything just feels a little bit still. Like life is still hard and it might not last this perfect moment, but it's still there. And I started to Instagram it. You can go on Instagram and it's like hashtag the Perfect Moments Project or Perfect Moments Project, something. Just seeking those out ruthlessly in my day. This is a perfect moment. It's so life-giving because I didn't concoct it. I didn't manufacture it. That perfect moment was just offered to me if I wanted to see it. And let's talk about gratitude for the future. When we think about the future, we often have anxiety and worry and stress about what could be or what couldn't be. But what if we used our imagination of what the future will be like in a way that gets us excited and grateful? We're allowed to do that. If we keep coming at our future with anxiety, guess how we show up in the future? Anxious. If we can start to visualize a future event or the future parent we're going to be or the future experience we're going to have or something we're building into the future, if we visualize that with excitement and gratitude, guess where we get to show up from now? Excitement and gratitude. The outcome will be different. One thing that I had my ladies in my coaching program do is I encourage them to write letters. And you can write a letter to your past self, thanking yourself for all the things that you had done that you are thankful for. Write a letter to your present self. What are you working on right now? What do you want to say thanks for? Or a letter to your future self where you're thanking your future self for all of the things that you did for her. You can also look at journal prompts. I was looking at gratitude journal prompts, and I think they're so powerful because it's not just like, I'm grateful for these 3 things. Like, that doesn't really pull a lot out of you. So just Google journal prompts. There's so many good ones out there. Like, what is something you wanted to happen and you are grateful that it didn't? Well, because sometimes we can have gratitude after the fact. Like, I'm so grateful that didn't happen. That ex-boyfriend, that job I didn't get, that house that didn't go through, those kinds of things. There is some stuff to be grateful about, right? What is a place you are grateful for? What do you like most about your home? And this question really helped me when I heard my kids start to answer it. I think it was like, what would you be sad about if you had to move your home? And they started saying their answers, and I was like, you know what? This house is pretty great. Like, I used to want to change everything about it, but now I see that these pink countertops from the 70s in our kitchen, I'm grateful for them because my kids have glue guns all over the place and I'm chopping cucumbers on it and I don't care. And for some reason, they're indestructible and they still look new. Like, what is that about? What is something underrated that you are grateful for? When we moved into our house 10 years ago, over time we saw that someone took a little piece of paper with the word gratitude on it and taped it on every water tap in the house. Like, I am grateful for plumbing. Like, thank goodness someone's expressing that gratitude that just made me stop and think, like, yeah, plumbing is awesome. What is a time of day you are grateful for? If you're a mom, it's probably the evening, right? What is another time of day you can think to be grateful for? What decision do you make for yourself that you always feel grateful about when you do? That's a really nice way to be proactive and start to thank your future self for what you're doing. As a family around the table, a question that we often ask is, what was hard? What was awesome? What was hard today? What was awesome today? Because both of those things matter, and we want to create a culture in our family where it's okay to bring up both. It's okay to have both. It's normal to have both hard and awesome. Because at the end of the day, having gratitude is not about negating what is hard. But many of us have this mental narrative broadcasting all of the hard things about how hard it is. And that broadcast is probably running like, what, 80% of the time? My encouragement to you is to work on changing this. So you're dialing down that feed of negative narrative and you're allowing some more positive to come in. And I don't believe it's realistic to have 100% positive experience in life, mental narrative, but I do believe we can get more to a 50-50. So I'm giving equal airtime in my mind, in my mental narrative about what is hard and what is great. Because 50% is hard and 50% is good. This is the human experience. It's not and or it's not either or, it's both. I hope that these lessons on gratitude have helped you this month. And I would really love to hear your takeaways, the ways that you're looking a little bit differently on gratitude on your life, and maybe share with me something that you're grateful for that you didn't realize before. I would love to see you guys fill up this Facebook page with those things. What are you grateful for that you didn't quite understand before? And as always, if you're watching the replay, put in hashtag replay or just replay in the comments. If you have questions about them, put them in the comments. I'm going to come back and read them and answer them. And drum roll, what should we talk about in December? I'd love to hear your ideas. If me going live regularly is something that is helpful for you, I'd love to hear your ideas on what we should do this coming month. All right, ladies, have a fabulous Wednesday.